The night air over Valoria sang with distant howls, the kind mothers warned their children about. Under a sapphire sky, Aeliana's chisel chipped away rhythmically at her latest sculpture in the half-moon's light. Suddenly the stone gave way. A hollow resonance echoed, revealing a small compartment inside the ancient wall. She reached in, her fingers brushing cold metal, a rune pulsing faintly with blue veins of energy. She stumbled back, heart hammering in her chest. The rune shimmered, casting swirling shadows across her workshop. As the noise faded, silence pressed in, broken only by a deep, rumbling voice from behind the door. "What have you found, Aeliana?" she whirled. Standing at her threshold was Torin, the stoic village guardian, his broad silhouette filling the doorway. He eyed the glowing rune in her shaking hands, his jaw set in silent warning. "I don't know. It was in the wall. It called to me," she whispered, her voice trembling. Torin stepped closer, his hand never leaving the hilt of his sword. "That's no ordinary token. Do you realize what you've unleashed?" A clatter, quick footsteps on the tiled roof, a flash of laughter. "Looks like you've made things interesting, Ellie," came a teasing voice. From the shadows toppled Ashen, the village rogue, landing lightly on the floor with a grin. His eyes flicked to the rune. "I say we run before the real trouble arrives." Before Aeliana could protest, the air thinned, the rune's glow intensified. The door slammed shut with invisible force. A circle of runic symbols spun around her feet, searing into the stone. "The rune of shaping," murmured Torin, his face softened just a shade. "A relic from the First Age. Legend says whoever wields it can mend or break the world." Aeliana's knees nearly buckled. "But I'm just a sculptor." Ashen's voice was gentle for once. "Then maybe the world needs a sculptor for what comes next." The rune whispered ancient secrets in her mind, promising power, terror, hope. Outside, the wind shifted. Somewhere beyond the village, a chill laugh rolled from Zephira's lips. She knew the hunt had begun. Aeliana glanced at her unlikely companions. Her adventure, ready or not, had begun in the blink of an eye. There was no turning back now, as destiny's call entwined with the pulse of the ancient rune clutched tight in her trembling hand. Heavy silence pressed on Aeliana's shoulders. The rune's blue glow faded to a dim spark, but its power hummed beneath her skin. Torin glanced between her and Ashen, his voice low. "If Zephira catches wind of this, she'll raze the village to ash to find it. We must warn Soren." "A sorceress?" Ashen grinned. "I always wanted to see real magic up close." Torin's frown deepened. "Soren is no spectacle. She's the only one who understands the runes, and she's guarded. Word on the wind is, Zephira's shadows roam the eastern woods. If we go, we move fast and silent." Aeliana gripped the rune, her knuckles white. Despite the fear twisting inside her, she nodded. If she can help to try. Through sleeping streets, the trio fled, racing houses quilted in ivy and moss. Aeliana's village, usually a sanctuary, now felt haunted by every flicker and creak. The rune pulsed, guiding them down alleys she'd never noticed, until the cobblestones gave way to forest floor. Twigs snapped underfoot. The trees thickened. Nocturnal creatures skittered from their path. In a tangle of ancient roots, Soren's hut stood crooked and gnarled, arcane symbols spun into the walls. A sliver of candlelight flickered through the window. Torin banged on the door. "Soren, open quickly!" An eye peered through the peephole. "Troublesome hour," a gravelly voice muttered as locks clanked and the door creaked open. Soren, her silver braid trailing to her waist, ushered them inside. Ashen sauntered in. "Nice place, bit drafty though." Soren ignored him, fixing her intense gaze on Aeliana's hand. "Show me!" Aeliana held out the rune. Soren's lips tightened in awe and fear as she traced its veins. "You bear the rune of shaping, one of 7 lost at the Sundering. Do you know what you carry?" Aeliana shook her head, voice barely above a whisper. "I only know it chose me." Soren looked at her, something like respect glinting in her eye. "It calls to those with the spirit to change the world. But you are hunted now. Zephira seeks all 7. When united, they can unmake or remake Valoria." Ashen's unease finally surfaced. "So what do we do?" Soren's answer was cold and certain. "We find the rest first, or darkness will reign." Aeliana's doubt wavered, replaced by a fragile resolve. She glanced at Torin and Ashen. Between prophecy and peril, she found courage where she'd never known it lived. Outside, dark figures gathered in the woods, eyes gleaming red. Zephira's shadows were already closing in on their trail. Soren's hut vibrated with wards as the night pressed close. The smell of smoke and dried herbs mixed in the cramped room. Soren motioned them to a map on the wall. Valoria sprawled, marked with red and gold pins. "The next rune sleeps here," she said, tapping the jagged peaks of the Stormspire Mountains. "It's the Rune of Tempest, once guarded by the Skyward Order. If Zephira reaches it first, a single thought of hers could drown an entire city." Ashen whistled. "And here I was hoping for a stroll on the beach." Torin shot him a look, but Aeliana cracked a smile. For a flicker, the terror in her chest eased. She studied the mountain path. "How far is it if we move at dawn?" 3 days if the woodfolk let you pass and the weather holds," Soren replied, her tone measured. "But Zephira's shadow wolves hunt by scent. You'll need a distraction." Before dawn painted the sky, Soren dug out glass vials and handed one to each of them. "Throw these at your feet if surrounded. The mist will mask you for moments no more. It's all I can spare." Ashen shrugged, tying his to his belt. "I'll try to stay out of trouble." Torin checked his sword. "We leave before first light. No talk. No fire." Aeliana, still clutching the rune, took a trembling breath. "Thank you, Soren, for trusting me." Soren's eyes softened just enough. "Trust is risk, but your heart is true. Don't let the rune turn it." They slipped out, the forest strangely silent. The rune pulsed gently, lighting their way until the shadows thinned and the mountains cut dark silhouettes against the waking sky. By midday, Aeliana's legs ached. She stumbled, catching herself against a mossy boulder. Ashen offered a hand, mock serious. "Didn't peg you for a mountain climber, Ellie." Aeliana tried to grin, but her voice was soft, uncertain. "I'm not sure I'm ready for any of this." Torin barked. "You've made it farther than most would dare." Suddenly a chilling howl split the silence, then another closer. The air crackled. Branches snapped. Ashen drew his daggers, eyes scanning the thicket. Torin stood at Aeliana's side, sword drawn. "Wolves! Move!" At the ridge's edge, black-furred shadows poured from the trees, eyes burning, fangs bared. Aeliana fumbled with her vial, fear gripping her heart as the pack lunged. With a wordless shout, she smashed the vial. A cloud of purple mist erupted, swallowing her and her friends as jaws snapped where they had just stood. Blind and breathless, they tumbled down the slope, grass and stones scraping raw. When the mist faded, they were sprawled, but alive. The rune thrummed against Aeliana's skin, as if urging her onward. Far behind, the wolves howled, frustrated by prey that had vanished like ghosts. Ashen coughed out a laugh. "That's twice you've saved our skins, Ellie." Aeliana, her resolve quietly forging in the crucible of danger, pressed on, eyes locked on the distant towers of Stormspire. No turning back now. The game between darkness and destiny had truly begun. By dusk, Stormspire's peaks sliced the sky, shrouded by lightning-lit clouds. The wind moaned in the ravines, and each footstep sent pebbles skittering downward into the fog. Ashen led, eyes sharp for hidden paths. Torin followed, sword ready. Aeliana's fingers worked nervously at the rune of shaping, its warmth oddly soothing in the chill air. Thunder cracked overhead. A stone bridge arched over a dizzying gorge. On the far side, the ruins of the Skyward Order waited, their banners long faded to rags. Lightning flashed, revealing the high spire and shattered gates. "Stay close," Torin warned, voice tense. "These paths are treacherous, and not all ghosts in these ruins are dead." Ashen flashed a smile, but kept to the shadows. "No plans to wander off. Those wolves gave me fleas." Inside the ruins, the air was thick with old magic. Statues of winged guardians stared down with cracked, judging eyes. Every step echoed in the empty halls. They found themselves in a circular chamber, its walls painted with stormcraft runes that seemed to flicker as Aeliana entered. A gust of wind slammed the door shut behind them. The rune of shaping pulsed in Aeliana's palm, guiding her gaze to a stone pedestal at the room's heart. On it rested a silver disk pulsing with harsh electric blue, the Rune of Tempest. Arcs of lightning snapped from the stone into the air as they drew close. Torin held back. "Magic like that can kill. Be careful." Aeliana stepped forward, trembling. The rune in her hand seemed to sing in harmony with the one on the pedestal. She locked eyes with Ashen, who nodded encouragement, and Torin, who gave a silent nod. She reached out. The air buzzed and her hair lifted from the charge. But as her fingers brushed the Rune of Tempest, the lightning bent away, swirling in a wild dance up her arm and around her body, stinging and burning her resolve into iron. She held on. A vision filled her mind, storms raging, mountains bowing under the wind, a dark figure, Zephira, standing atop a tower with runes swirling at her command. The feeling of helplessness twisted Aeliana's gut. She yanked her hand away, clutching the new rune. The storm faded. Ashen exhaled, awed. You just tamed a tempest. Torin's respect was clear. 2 runes and you still stand. Just then, a scrap of shadow slipped from the wall. A shadow scout, Zephira's spy. It hissed for reinforcements. "We have to move, now!" Torin bellowed. With both runes in her grasp, Aeliana tore through the chamber's other exit, leading her friends into a maze of cold, crumbling corridors with Zephira's darkness lashing hungrily at their heels. For once, Aeliana's stride was steady. She was afraid, but the power she held, and the friends at her side, kindled something new inside her, hope that she could change more than just stone. The underground corridors twisted like roots beneath the Stormspire ruins. Aeliana gripped both runes, one hot and humming, the other cool and sharp with contained storms. Every footfall echoed, pursued by the guttural snarls and whispers of Zephira's shadows closing in behind them. Ashen darted ahead, scouting for hidden doors and pitfalls. "Left! Down here!" he called, eyes glinting in the gloom. "Unless you fancy becoming shadow fodder, that is." Torin hustled Aeliana forward, shield up. The air thickened, icy with malevolence. A heap of stones blocked their path, an old cave-in. Aeliana slid her hand over the rune of shaping. "Let me try. I think I know how." She pressed both runes together, focusing as Soren once taught, on intention, not fear. Blue and silver light spiraled outward, sinking into the rubble. The stones shimmered, crumbled, and then reshaped, reforming as a sturdy archway. The passage beyond yawned open, lit by gentle sparks. Ashen stared, mouth open. "Never seen artistry like that. Remind me to stick close when the going gets tough." Before they pushed through, a voice crackled through the tunnel, cold and cruel. "No door will save you forever, little sculptor." Zephira's mocking form shimmered in the dust, a shadow projection, her black hair twisting like smoke. "Soon the runes will be mine, and when they are, Valoria will kneel." Aeliana's hands trembled, but Torin stepped forward, sword glinting. "You will not have them, Zephira. The people of Valoria will never bow to you." Zephira only laughed. "We will see. Each rune you find draws me closer to you. Even now, my agents move for the Rune of Embers. Run fast, fools." Her figure faded with a hiss. Aeliana felt the cold tighten around her heart, but forced herself forward. "We have to reach the Emberlands first. She can't win. She mustn't." Ashen clapped her on the back, tone suddenly serious. "We move smarter, not just faster. Zephira's after the same things, but we have each other. And you, we have you." Torin grunted approval and set the pace as dawn filtered through cracks above. They emerged onto icy scree, Stormspire's shadow behind them, with determination blazing faintly in the chill morning glare. As the path twisted south towards the Emberlands, the true test began, not just against Zephira, but against the doubts clawing at Aeliana's spirit. Was she a pawn, or could she become a player in Valoria's fate? With every step, the answer drew nearer. Beneath a sun burnt orange by the Emberland's endless fires, Aeliana's little band crossed scorched plains dotted with geysers. The air shimmered with heat, and the very earth seemed to whisper of jealous flames. With every step, the runes she bore grew heavier, the storm in her palm and the shaping glow swirling together, energies sometimes clashing and leaving her hands numb. The journey grew harsher. Ashen's jokes thinned as they dodged fiery jets and creeping magma. Even Torin sweated beneath his armor, but his resolve burned undimmed. Aeliana, exhausted but determined, led the last stretch toward the fire-blackened city, where the Rune of Embers was said to sleep. Cinders drifted through empty streets, charred statues watched above doorways. Soren's warning echoed in Aeliana's mind. The Rune of Embers will test your heart. Only one with true purpose survives its flames. Suddenly a ragged cry rang out. "Help, please!" From behind a toppled pillar, a young woman struggled, her leg trapped under rubble, fire creeping closer. Without thinking, Aeliana sprinted, urging Ashen and Torin to follow. Flames licked at her boots as she heaved at the stone, channeling the rune of shaping. Ashen darted in, pulling the stranger free just as fire whooshed past. The girl gasped for breath, eyes huge with shock. "My name is Mara. You saved me. You're searching for the rune, aren't you?" Aeliana nodded, wary. "You know of it?" Mara looked away. Some say it's deep beneath the Temple of Ash, but Zephira's soldiers are already here, digging and destroying. If you hurry, you might reach it first. Torin watched Mara carefully, then turned to Aeliana. She seems sincere, but we move with caution. Zephira's hand may be closer than we think. Skirting soldiers in red-black armor, the group snuck through ruined alleys until they reached the temple's jagged archway. Heat shimmered on the stairs, but Aeliana pressed on, feeling the runes pull in her chest. Deep below, the temple opened into a chamber pulsing with emberlight. The rune of embers hovered above a ring of molten rock, its fire brighter than the sun. Shadows flickered. Zephira's agents were already closing in, boots hammering stone. Ashen handed Aeliana his cloak. You get that rune. Leave them to us. She locked eyes with Torin, who nodded. Her doubts gave way to courage as Mara squeezed her hand. You saved me. Now save us all. With heart pounding, Aeliana stepped into the fire, trusting the runes would carry her through. The flames curled away from her, recognizing the strength of a true purpose. As her hand closed around the rune of embers, the chamber shook. Zephira's shadows poured in, but Aeliana emerged wreathed in firelight, her resolve shining as fiercely as the rune itself. Behind her, Torin and Ashen stood their ground, battling back dark soldiers. And Mara, eyes wide with awe, realized this was just the beginning. For with every rune found, Aeliana drew closer to a destiny and a confrontation that would remake Valoria. Aeliana staggered from the molten chamber, the rune of embers burning fierce and new in her grip. The power coursed through her, wild, dangerous, but alive. Ashen and Torin pressed forward, wounded but unyielding, as Zephira's soldiers blocked every escape. Ashen grinned fiercely. I'll draw them away. You and Torin get Aeliana out. Destiny's calling, right? Torin started to protest, but Ashen was already gone, flipping into shadowy corridors, knives flashing. Torin grabbed Aeliana's arm and pulled her through a hidden passage, Mara trailing close behind. Above ground, dusk blazed crimson over the Emberlands. They sprinted for shelter, ducking into a collapsed bell tower. The city burned as Zephira's banners unfurled overhead, her shadow scouring every street. Aeliana's chest heaved. Power flickered at her fingertips, the runes humming, shaping, tempest, embers, all feeding into one surging tide of magic. She gripped the runes tight. Mara, pale but steady, crouched beside her. The temple was just the beginning. There are whispers among the refugees. An old legend says the rune of roots lies in the petrified wood beyond the Ashlands. With it, maybe you can heal more than just stone. Torin nodded grimly. We've no time to rest. Zephira is growing stronger, feeding off fear. You grow stronger too, Aeliana, but you must stay who you are. Aeliana looked down at the runes, their pulsing lights casting shadows over her features. I just want to save Valoria, not become someone I can't recognize. Torin's reply was gentle. That's why you may be the only one who can. Night fell. Ashen rejoined them, limping but smiling crookedly. Lost 'em. Stole a loaf of bread too. He tossed it to Mara, who grinned back in surprise. They huddled, battered but alive, beneath the tower. For once, Aeliana let herself lean against her friends, not just for safety, but for strength. The weight she carried belonged to all of them now. In the deep hours, Ashen whispered, We keep moving, right? We're not beaten yet. Aeliana, her voice steadier than she felt, answered, No, we're only getting started. For every village lost, for every person Zephira frightens, we keep fighting. We find the next rune. We stand, not just for survival, but for hope. Beyond the wreckage, the petrified forest whispered in the wind, as if daring them to continue. The next test waited, and with it, the fate of all Valoria. The petrified forest rose ghostly and silent, tree trunks like marble bones thrust from the earth, leaves frozen to stone. Shadows draped every path as Aeliana led her companions beneath the canopy, the rune of embers flickering in her grip to keep away biting chill that even fire could not chase. Ashen checked every step for hidden traps, while Torin guarded the rear. Mara traced delicate symbols on the ancient bark, searching for the legend's truth. So which rune exactly are we facing? Ashen whispered, eyes darting for danger. The rune of roots, Aeliana murmured. They say it can break or heal the land itself. Even Zephira fears it. The path twisted, narrowing to a hollow centered on the oldest tree, its trunk split, hollow and echoing with the memory of when roots ran wild. The rune of roots floated within, veins of emerald pulsing through ancient knots. Yet Zephira's presence already tainted the glade. Sickly darkness coiled at the base, twisting the grass to noxious black. Torin's voice was grave. "We're not alone." Shadows surged. Zephira herself stepped from the gloom, all elegance and mockery. "You've done well to come this far, little sculptor, but you don't grasp the cost. The world is cruel, change is pain. Hand over the runes and I'll spare your friends." Ashen spat. "We're not bargaining with darkness." Zephira's eyes flashed. With a word, dark tendrils lashed at Mara and Torin, pinning them to petrified trunks. Ashen lunged to free them, but was flung aside by a wave of force. Aeliana, shaking, gazed at the rune of roots. The runes in her hands called to it, reminded her of her first act of courage, her friend's faith, every village destroyed. With a cry, Aeliana reached into the hollow. The pain was instant. Zephira's magic tore at her mind, dredging up every fear and failure, every memory of weakness. "You're nothing!" Zephira's voice thundered. "You will break!" But through the agony, Aeliana heard not just the runes, but her friends' voices. Ashen's reckless hope, Torin's hard faith, Mara's gratitude. They rose above the fear. She dug deeper, and the rune of roots flared to life, blinding with green light. Aeliana's scream shattered the spell. Roots erupted, shielding her friends and binding Zephira. The villainess shrieked as cracks split the ancient wood, and then, with a thunderous sound, the glade pulsed with healing, a wave that peeled darkness back. Aeliana collapsed, clutching the 4 runes, gasping, every muscle trembling. Torin lifted her gently. "You fought for all of us." Ashen knelt beside her, awe in his eyes. "We're heading for the endgame, Ellie. But you're not the same girl who found that first rune." Aeliana swallowed hard, eyes shining. "I hope not. The last runes are out there, so is Zephira. But this time, we're ready for her." As the petrified forest softened under dawn's light, the heart of Valoria beat with new hope. The final trials, and the fate of the realm awaited. Dawn glimmered through the still reviving petrified forest, painting the path ahead in gold and green. Aeliana woke sore and battered, but changed, her friends close by. 4 runes now warmed her pack, shaping, tempest, embers, roots. Each pulsed with its own power, but together they fueled a new spark inside her. A strength not just of magic, but of faith in herself. They trekked through villages caught between ruin and renewal. Everywhere, hope took root again. Flowers blooming in blackened earth, children playing where there was once only ash. Word of the rune's return spread, and villagers looked to Aeliana with gratitude, not fear. Even Torin, usually stoic, softened. "You're shifting the tide, Aeliana. Valoria believes in you." But with each victory, Zephira's darkness lashed out harder. Mara went missing on the edge of a half-forgotten marsh. Ashen bolted into the gloom without a word. And Aeliana and Torin rushed after him, runes pulsing in sync. They found Mara held captive by Zephira's magic, caught in a sphere of shadows. Zephira herself waited in the ruined sanctum at the marsh's heart, her gaze cold and triumphant, 5 runes spinning at her feet. She must have captured 2 others through ancient trickery or force, the rune of light and the rune of night. Said to be the 2 most dangerous, one pure and one corrupt, glimmered among hers, their power shaking the air. Ashen tried to charge forward, but Zephira flicked her hand, pinning him to the wall. Torin drew his sword, but found himself trapped in creeping tendrils. Mara's face flooded with guilt and fear. "I'm sorry," she whimpered. "I couldn't stop her." Aeliana stepped forward, her hands shaking only slightly. "You've taken enough from Valoria. This ends now." Zephira smiled, cruel and sure. "Child, I hold the runes that can unmake the world. Give me yours, or watch your friends fade into shadow." Aeliana hesitated, then met her friend's eyes. In Torin's, she read steadfast belief. In Ashen's swollen but grinning face, reckless faith. In Mara's, desperate hope. "I would rather shatter every rune than let our world die," Aeliana declared, voice breaking but loud. She raised her runes, the ancient magic swirling around her. Zephira lashed out, knives of night and beams of cruel light propelled by stolen magic. The runes flared, power blasting into the marsh, sparks lighting up the ruined sanctum. Roots surged up, storms rolled low, fire and light battled darkness and corruption in a breathtaking clash. But Zephira was strong, too strong. Slowly, her shadows pressed in. Mud and magic began to swallow Aeliana's courage. Ashen called out, voice raw, "Don't hold it all yourself, Ellie. Let us help." As Zephira's power closed in, Aeliana realized, to save Valoria, she must trust completely, not just in her own heart, but in the hearts of those beside her. She clasped hands with Ashen, Torin, even Mara pressed close, her friends pouring their will, their hope, their belief into the runes. For the first time, the runes responded not just to Aeliana, but to all of them, glowing with a blinding spectrum. Zephira recoiled, fury painting her face. "No!" she shrieked. The sanctum shook, powers colliding, neither side yet victorious. But this battle was no longer Aeliana's alone. The final moment, the choice and the fate of Valoria would be decided in the ultimate clash to come. The ruined sanctum of the marsh quaked as storm, fire, roots, and arcane light spun in a cyclone between Aeliana's united circle and Zephira's solitary shadow. The 7 runes, 4 in Aeliana's grasp, 3 at Zephira's command, pulled at each other, the very air torn with their power. Ancient songs and screams echoed in the breach between worlds. Ashen, gripping Aeliana's arm, called above the roar, "We can break her hold, but you have to trust us. Not just with the runes, but with everything." Torin's gaze was steady, sword gleaming with borrowed light. Mara, shaking but resolute, squeezed Aeliana's hand. "We've seen what you can do, Aeliana, but we believe in what we can do together." Zephira's cloak flared as runes of light and night orbited her, their energies crackling and battling for dominance. Her voice sliced through the chaos. "The world is shaped by those with the will to wield it. These runes do not belong to the weak." Aeliana grit her teeth, tears streaking her soot-stained cheeks. "This power isn't about who's strongest, it's about who's willing to shape a future worth living for." With every ounce of will, she let go, not of hope, but of fear and pride, offering the rune's magic to Ashen, Torin, and Mara. In that moment, the colors of all 7 runes mingled, then exploded into a pure, radiant force that shot skyward, parting the storm. The force ripped the runes from Zephira's grasp, drawing them into the center of the sanctum. For a suspended breath, she reached desperately, her form stretched and flickering. Darkness clawed at light, raging. But Zephira failed to see that in unity, the runes were whole. Aeliana and her friends focused together, Ashen's clever hope, Torin's courage, Mara's compassion, all flooding into the gleaming nexus. The runes, shaping, tempest, embers, roots, light, night, and the one so long forgotten, the rune of harmony, balanced and spun, fusing in a pulse that swept through every stone, every living thing in Valoria. Zephira collapsed, her shadows torn away, her power broken. She was left kneeling among the scattered runes, no longer a queen of darkness, but a woman alone, shaking beneath the world's new dawn. For the first time she looked small, a remnant of pain and fear that Valoria would heal in time. As the cosmos stilled, root and flower and river sprang back to life. Villages shimmered with renewal. The runes, their task fulfilled, lifted and burned with golden brilliance, splitting into a rain of motes that scattered hope throughout the land. Aeliana, spent but upright, gasped in the silence. Her friends drew in slow breaths, the bonds between them deeper than ever. Ashen finally broke the stillness, grinning crookedly. "So is it safe to say this time we really saved the world?" Torin smiled, genuinely. "Valoria will remember your name, all of you." Mara brushed tears from her eyes. "No, Valoria will remember what you taught us, that unity, not power, forges new beginnings." Aeliana knelt, fingers pressed to the earth as wildflowers bloomed beneath her touch. She had started as a sculptor, shaping stone in the shadows of old fears. Now she had helped shape a future, a world remade not by the runes alone, but by the hearts of those who dared to wield them together. The sun rose over Valoria, brighter and more alive than ever before, as Aeliana and her friends stepped forward, ready to build not just what was lost, but what was possible. And though the runes were gone, their hope endured, lighting the path for all who would follow.